Hello everyone, welcome back for another edition of Mama Gibson's Reading Corner. Today we are going to be reading a short story by Mary Casanova. It's called Some Dog. This book's illustrated by Ard Hoyt. So let's get started. George had a good life. When the woman read the newspaper, George had a place to rest his weary head. When the man chopped wood, George studied 1,000 cents on the wind. And when they went fishing, George, who couldn't swim, rode in the middle, steady and still. "You're some dog," said the woman. "Some dog," said the man. But the day another dog arrived, everything changed. "He must be astray," said the woman. "Looks like he's here to stay," said the man. "Wah-roo!" cried George. "Wah-roo-roo-roo-roo!" George doesn't like this other dog. Like a jackrabbit, the stray leapt back and forth. "Yah, yippity, 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 yip, yip, yip." Then he zipped around the room 3 times. "What a lively dog," said the woman. "Let's call him Zippity," said the man. Now when the newspaper arrived, Zippity snatched it, flew over the couch, and dropped it at the woman's feet. Good dog. When the man chopped wood, Zippity backflipped and caught sticks in mid-air. Amazing. When the man and the woman biked to the corner store, Zippity ran ahead with the grocery list. By the time they arrived, the shop owner had the groceries packed up and ready to go. What a dog! And when they all went fishing, Zippity jumped from George's back from lap to lap until he dove, caught a fish, and swam to shore. That Zippity is some dog. That night at dinner, George was too tired to beg for food. At bedtime, he was exhausted, but Zippity snored in his sleep. One day, George smelled rain on the wind. Before long, thunder grumbled. It boom, boom, clanged and rumbled. George didn't mind. But with each clap of thunder, Zippity raced in circles. He plinked, he chewed, he dashed and crashed until finally, out! Oh no, looks like Zippity's in trouble. Rain pounded down. Wind shook the treetops. Then, boom, a crack, clang, Zippity was gone. He'll get lost. It's a terrible storm. But George thumped his tail. At last he'd have his bed all to himself. "George," begged the woman, "go find Zippity." George stretched and groaned. "Come on, George," the man pleaded. "Here, George," the woman said, "smell this." George studied Zippity's blanket. If there was one thing George could do, it was follow a smell. Through the whipping wind and needle rain, George led the way, nose to the ground. He sniffed and whiffed, snorted and twitched. He smelled 1,000 scents, but followed only one. past a farmhouse in shambles, a clothesline and thorny brambles. George tracked the scent. When the man and woman turned back, George pressed on, following his nose. Up steep steps and down he went to the top of a seesaw, to the ground again, along a slippery rail, over a rotted pine, down through the valley, through the swampy, murky mire. George kept going until his nose led him to a shivering, shaking, wet, and quaking. Zippity, stuck in the thick, oozy muck. Zippity whimpered, Zippity whined, he twisted and turned, he wriggled and churned, but the harder he tried to reach the bank, the deeper and deeper and deeper he sank. "Waroo!" cried George. Then George stretched himself across a log. He grabbed Zippity's collar and held fast. Slow and steady, George tugged and pulled and pulled and tugged until out Zippity popped. Ya yippity yappity yeep yeep yeep. The dogs touched noses. Then George led the way. He sniffed and whiffed, snorted and twitched, following the trail through the swampy, murky mire, over a rotted pine, down a slippery slide, until "It's Zippity," they cried. "You found him." "Oh, George, you're some dog," said the man. "Our dog," said the woman. From that day on, George and Zippity got along just fine. George always had a place to rest his weary head. Every day he studied 1,000 cents on the wind. And when they all went fishing, George rode in the middle, steady and still. And most nights, George didn't mind sharing, even in his sleep. Well, that's the end of Some Dog. Looks like George saved the day. Good thing he was around and that he was some dog so that he could follow that scent and find Zippity in the middle of that big storm. If you have a dog, is your dog scared of thunder? Our dog sure is. He shakes and hides and has to wear his pajamas to keep him calm. And he likes to cuddle with me when it's storming. Well, I hope you enjoyed this story. I thought it was very adorable. And I cannot wait to see you guys back here for another edition of Mama Gibson's Reading Corner. Keep reading those books.